Tuesday, May 3rd. Welcome to Breaking Even. A lot to unpack on today's episode. You can take a quick look back at our picks from the Mexico Open, offer up some bets from this week's PGA Tour event. Jonathan Coachman is going to gaze into his crystal ball and give us the best bet of the week. And Danny Moses, yeah, we know him as a financial expert, but he's also a horse racing aficionado, and he has a secret. And he's going to give it to us and tell us where to put our money when it comes to the running for the roses at the Kentucky Derby this weekend. Financial markets feel uneasy with the Fed this week. I'm going to drill Guy Adami and Danny Moses with all kinds of questions. How do you play the outcomes from the Fed meeting? Gold versus Bitcoin, housing market, so much more. All that's coming your way on Breaking Even. Here we go. Basically, the whole team is here. Look at this. Jonathan Coachman, Guy Adami, Danny Moses. How we doing, fellas? Good morning.
All right.
Whoa. Nobody told me anything about Danny Moses being on the show today.
You better run and hide.
Coach has a lot of people money.
What's up?
Oh, this feels like home right here.
It does. It feels good to be back. We've got a big show, and I really have some secrets I want to hear from Danny Moses. And then the markets, I've got a ton of questions. So let's just dig right in. Coach, last week, we were down in Mexico for the Mexico Open on the PGA Tour. Our picks, they were close. If Nate Lashley had just played a little bit better on Sunday. Yep. There are our picks. Matt Jones, he was there, and then he wasn't. Had a good round going Sunday as well. Davis Riley, and then Nate Lashley. Come on, man. We were so close.
Yeah, my picks sucked last week, but it was a brand new course, and so it's hard to handicap. But the one thing we realized last week, guys, is that sometimes it's right in front of you. And we saved people. I got a lot of tweets saying, Coach, you told us not to bet John Rahm, and he ended up winning. I told you not to bet him because he was plus 450. And if you do that in the financial markets or in sports betting, you will not be doing it very, very long. So stop with the tweets. You're not going to bet on a winner plus 450. Stop. Let's move on.
You know what we did learn, though, is when John Rahm is the heavy favorite, you probably bet on him, regardless of odds. He wanted the United States Open at Torrey Pines. So why not?
Can I interject on that? I know this is not my segment, but I totally agree with Coach. I agree with that, especially in golf. However, when he was on the 14th hole, I went online. He was minus 685. I'm not going to lie. I bet 1,000 and win like 150 because I figured.
No, you didn't.
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Were you sweating, nursing that one-shot lead for about 6 holes?
No, I'm just saying, like, once I knew it, and I figured at that point, if he doesn't win the tournament, his career's over because he's mental. Now I've taken him to win the British. I don't want to jump ahead 2 months here, but he's going to win the British. Anyway, sorry, guys. Go back to your thing. Go back to golf. Sorry.
Going to win the British. I mean, we'll have to unpack that later because it's an interesting call. We should do a futures call about some of the upcoming majors.
I like it.
But you know what? One thing we did learn. I liked your bet, Coach, your crystal ball bet, Gary Woodland over Tony Finau. Tony Finau hadn't had a top 25 since like 8 months ago. And he played beautifully. He made some long putts, missed some short ones, but his ball striking is as good as John Rahm's. And so what we've learned is Tony Finau may have just broken out. He may have just broken out of that wedge, as you say, in the financial world.
I want to give people a little nugget here moving forward, that there are certainly sometimes windows, whether it's finances or in sports, where you can get really good value on something. Tony Finau for the next 3 or 4 weeks is going to be the guy. And I'm telling you, I'm not overhyping it. I have never seen a player in the history of me calling golf that has hit the ball better over the course of 4 days than Tony Finau did last week in Mexico. Never. Not one time.
Can I interject again?
What you got? Go.
I love Tony Finau. I love watching him play. You know why? He plays quickly. He doesn't labor over every shot. He doesn't yell at anybody. He's fun to watch, but I will say he has trouble closing. And he's got that mental. He's got to get over this loop because he's there every week, Coach. You guys are right. And I want to say so. I'm so sick and tired of the Jordan Spieths of the world and all this, how long these guys take. It's bad for the sport. It's bad for amateurs to watch this. It's terrible. Finau's the right guy to watch. Everything about him. Sorry, I'm going back to my.
You never have to apologize, Danny. This is who you are. Don't apologize. This is what we do. We talk it out. Now, to your point, he can't make a putt, and that's why there's value on Tony Finau this week. The numbers are really, really good because you can't just look at the scoreboard and the result. That's why you got to have shows like this, or you tag into really smart people in the world of golf. Because Tony Finau last week, he could have shot 22, 23, 24 under. That's how good he played. But he couldn't make a putt. until the weekend when he shot 14 under par over the course of 2 days. Keep your eye on Tony Finau moving forward for the next 4 to 6 weeks.
He's got the same problem Shaq did at the free throw line. His hands are too big. Right? Have you ever tried to shoot with like a marble or something? It's just nearly impossible. And Tony Finau, when he looks like he's playing with kids' clubs, right? And when he's putting, his hands go all the way down to the shaft. He just needs a bigger grip, a heavier putt, or something. I don't know.
Maybe next time you're out there, you should tell him what Danny thinks about it.
I will.
Really get you fired up.
Speaking of Tony Finau, let's skip ahead and look at the picks for this week on the PGA Tour. We got a new golf course, well, newer-ish. It's supposed to be the Wells Fargo at Quail Hollow down in Charlotte, but we're up at the TPC at Avenel Farm. It's been seen before, 2017-18. They've remodeled it. They've lengthened it somewhat. Molinari won in a rain-soaked event. He broke all kinds of records last time it was here. But typically, it's a hard golf course, and it is a ball strikers playground. Yeah, putting's important. Driving always has something to say about it. But this is all about who hits the most greens and who hits it closest to the hole. Here are the picks. Coach, I'll let you defend yours first.
So I went with the theory of hot golfers. Brandon Wu, my top 10, he set a tournament record last week in Mexico on Sunday, shot a final round 63 and nearly won the golf tournament, finished second place. I like him at plus 700 to finish top 10 because sometimes when you just continue to play, it's that third week. He played well at the Zurich in the team event. He played well last week. I like him top 10 this week. Then it's the John Rahm effect. When Rory McIlroy shows up and he's the class of the field, you play him for a top 5. It protects your win bet because he's only plus 800 to win. So this, you're allowing 5 spots. You're taking it down to plus 175. I love that number. And then, of course, Tony Finau. I'm going to pick him to win. He finally got off the schneid at the FedEx Cup playoffs last year, winning in the Continental United States for a second tour win. I think he backs that up this week after what I saw last week. Plus, he needs it. He really, really needs it. He's been outside the top 150 of the FedEx Cup playoff race until last week, so he needs to keep it going. I think he wins this week.
Only thing I worry about with Tony Finau is coming off those different grasses, the paspalum grasses down in Mexico. You come up here to the bent Poe mix. It's a pretty drastic difference.
Are you talking about grasses that he was smoking? I mean, what the hell are you talking? You're telling me
you can play golf on it and smoke it. Come on, guy. Hey, you ever make picks, Coach, and then you look out the next day and you're going, what in the world was I thinking? I must have been deep into my Weller bourbon back here when some of these picks
every day of my life.
I like my top 10, Cameron Young and Corey Connors, both of them playing well. Corey Connors is knocking off in hole-in-one like every other tournament nowadays. Cameron Young, good ball hitter, young guy. To your point, he needs it. He's trying to track down Will Zalatoris, roommates at Wake Forest, that kind of deal. Now, the top 5, I went with straight value. Lucas Glover, good ball hitter, questionable putter. This is the time of year that Doc Redman plays well, and he plays well on these grasses. And then Austin Smotherman, he won this week, last year on the Korn Ferry Tour. He's hitting the ball extremely well, hits a ton of greens. So I went with value plays for my top 5. And then if you look at winners at this golf course, there's a history of players who have won majors or they go on to win majors. And only one of the par 5s is reachable in 2. You know, they're way over 600 yards. So I'm going with Webb Simpson, who 2 years ago led the tour in par 5 scoring, and Russell Henley, who's number 1 in strokes gained approach on the PGA Tour. So I'm taking those 2 guys to win outright. But my top 5 picks, I'm scratching my head on. Hopefully they'll pay off.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. I had one other thing I needed to get to before we get to the boys and their side of the show. Because as we know, Ned, let me just do this real quick. Because as I look into my crystal ball, here is what I see.
The bet of the week. Here we go.
So this is the bet of the week. But I brought a video to go along with my bet of the week. Could we play that video, please? See, I just wanted to do that twice. That's all I wanted to do is do that twice because I'm an idiot. So as I look into my crystal ball, my best bet of the week is Tony Finau, top 10, plus 250. I don't care what you say about the grass. This is my best bet of the week. And when I throw it into the crystal ball, you better play it. The other ones, okay. But this one, Danny, do you see how we've increased the production value on the show since the last time you were on?
Unbelievable. It must be all the winnings that you've taken from people. So I'm planning back in. It's amazing. Amazing.
Yes. All right, if Danny's here, I want Kentucky Derby. I want finance. I'm just going to look back because I'm
That's
here
right.
for it.
I want the secret. You were telling us before the show you might have found a secret Kentucky Derby. Everybody, turn your ears on. Listen up.
All right, 20 horses running the Derby. Normally that's what you get to, right? So let me walk through kind of the top 6 or 7 horses, and I'm going to focus in on a couple, okay? So the number 1 horse, Mo Donegal, right? Mike Rapoli, who came up with Vitamin Water Genius, just bought in because he wanted some Derby action. That is a Todd Pletcher trained horse. He's been there. He's won it. Arado Ortiz is on the mount. They're 10-1. I'll come back to them in a second. Coming out of that 1 slot, though, is tough because it's normally a late closer. And if he tries to get out early, he's going to be in trouble. Number 3, Epicenter, has won 4 of his last 5 starts. I will note that 8 of the last Kentucky Derby winners have come in undefeated on the season. This guy's won 4 of the last 5, including the Louisiana Derby, which I'm going to come back to in a moment. Again, not a great post for him. Also likes to come from behind. But that Steve Asmussen, great trainers, never won the Derby. He's going to be the one people are rooting for. Then you got Guy's favorite horse, Marc Messier. His name is Messier, named after Marc Messier. The owners played for the Edmonton Oilers. There's a connection there. So, Guy, I know you're going to go with that one. That one's at 8-1. Guess who owns a piece of Messier? That would be our friend Jack Wolf from Starlight Racing, who we had on our show a year ago with Medina Spirit with Baffert on. Granted, of course, got disqualified and later, unfortunately, died. But there is some luck there, and that is my affiliation in the past. I've had investments in Starlight. That is used to be a Baffert horse, but Baffert's suspended, so the trainer is Yakteen. So we'll come back to that in a second. Then you got Charge It at 20-1. Runner up in the Florida Derby, had a horrible ride. Not a fan, but I do like him a little bit. Zandon, that's Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt. Chad Brown is coming in. He's kind of a favorite as well. He won the Bluegrass. He came from behind to do it. He did lose to Mo Donegal by a nose in the Grade 2 Remsen Stakes before, and third to Epicenter in the Risen Star. Come back to that. Then you got a really interesting horse, number 12, Taiba, ridden by Mike Smith, another Yakteen horse that was a Baffert horse. It's run 2 races in its entire career. Never ran as a 2-year-old. It's 2-0. Won the Santa Anita. Beat Messier, by the way. So that's interesting. I'll come back to that. Then White Abario, coming out of the 15 slot at 10-1. That is Joe Safi, and Tyler Gaffleone is riding him. They won the Florida Derby and the Holy Bull. This horse has been down in Florida. But here's of note. Since the year 2000, 4 winners have come out of this 15 post. So that's something to consider. And that seems to be, and that's not a coincidence. There's a reason the track runs that way. But here we go, guys. All right. It's going to be pouring rain on Friday, pouring rain on Saturday. You need a mutter. You need someone who can run in the rain. I already liked Epicenter, the 3-horse. I liked him before. But guess what? He broke his maiden last year at Churchill on a wet track. And he just won on a wet track previously in the Louisiana Derby. I like this horse. He's going off at 7-2. I think this is your winner. The number 3 Epicenter. Zandon and the 10 horse I just mentioned also won the Bluegrass in the rain recently in Lexington. So those are the 2. But here's how I'm going to bet it. So 3 to win, 3 across, right? Win, place, show. Then I like the following. I like a trifecta box. 3, 6, 10, 12, and 1. Box them together. 5 boxes on a tri box will cost you $60 for every dollar, but all you got to finish in any order in the top 3. If you want to make it a superfecta, take those 5, add the 8 and the 15, right? If you want to do that, that's expensive, but I would do that. Then you got to finish in the top 4. Any of those order in the 4. So 3, 6, 10, 12, 1, 8, 15. That 15 horse is interesting at 10-1. White Abario, I just mentioned, that's a hot slot. Won the Florida Derby and the Holy Bull. It's used to coming in from the outside. So I kind of feel like you should include that somewhere, White Abario, but Epicenter, the number 3 horse, is my pick for the Kentucky Derby. Any questions?
Oddly enough, Danny, quickly, I broke my maiden a year ago in Kentucky as well. Back to you.
All right. Good deal.
Somebody had to spike it.
Closer. I feel like he has tactical speed. Danny, I don't feel like he's a real closer, though, when I think about how I've handicapped the Kentucky Derby.
Who?
Would that be an accurate assessment? Epicenter, I feel like he's not a closer.
Well,
he uses
correct. No. He is a good closer. He's not a front runner. So the danger here is that he gets out early. And, from the 3-hole, what do? Do you drop back? Because Donegal's going to try to drop back as well. So that's the big question. That's the problem. If he was not in the 3 slot, I think he'd be 2-1. I think if he was farther outside, he'd be 2-1. But I will tell you this, you bring up a good point. So there's something called Bayer, which is the speed rating. So the highest speed rating figure in the race is Messier. At number, he's 103, and so is Taiba. And that Taiba is interesting. 2 starts total, so that 12. This is the Derby. Anything can happen. And not far behind that, with 100 buyer rating, is Epicenter. So those are the 3 horses with the highest speed rating. Normally speed wins race, but again, I'm comfortable because it's going to be rain. It's going to be wet track for sure. That's why I like this Epicenter. That's what took me over the hump, Coach, was on that. So what he lacks a little bit, maybe, I think he gets back on a wet track. So I think the money's coming on Epicenter.
How do you bet it? What website do you use?
I can't. I could tell you that I'd have to kill you, but it's you can go anywhere now these days. You can go on anything and bet anything on horses. So
Coach, tell us where we're supposed to go to bet on this thing.
Ned, there's no way for those of us who live in states that don't have legalized sports gambling that I'm going to tell you live on the air where I make my bets.
There you go. Exactly.
It's illegal, so don't ask us. Now, if you're in a state that has sports betting, FanDuel probably has the best one because they have a ton of props, and the way Danny gave out his picks can be a little difficult to put them in. But the really good websites make it very easy to box.
I'll tell you what, I will tweet out to this episode when we put it out. I'll put in my picks more granular. How about that when it comes out?
Great.
There?
And if something changes throughout the week, if you would just update us with little tweets, or you can just text one of us and we'll update it. If a horse that you hear about gets hurt, or
you got it,
the jockey's too big.
Listen, there is something about gambling on horses that they're trying to change. You can do this in Europe and not really in the United States. Is fixed wages, so fixed odds wagering, which is a real problem. There'd be a lot more action if you could do it. What do I mean? I like Epicenter right now at 7-2, right? A little better than 3-1. I think that horse closes at 2-1. I would bet it right now, just like you do in sports, to give an edge. And that's the big problem. They're trying to fix that. They're starting to do it more, but that's a huge thing on the come for horse racing. Because as everyone knows, or maybe people don't know, that listen, it's a parimutuel. So it's as much money comes in, whatever odds go to each horse, that's what the payout is. So we can change. I could bet this at 7-2. I end up winning even money. So
I'm going to have to drive up to Kentucky, just north of Tennessee here.
No, you can get a TVG account. Any state that has horse racing at all, you can open up an account on something. So,
well, thanks for putting in all your time on that. And if you haven't been paying attention, Danny's been doing this for a long time in terms of watching the ponies. So listen closely. Go back and listen to all that again. Follow him on Twitter if you don't already, because he's going to, as he said, put his picks in a more granular fashion so you can understand it. I do want to move on.
Means, Ned.
What's that?
Danny knows what granular means.
He's granular he's like sand. He's so granular. Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
He gets down to the nitty gritty. Hey, by the way, you can always like us, follow us on YouTube or Twitter, Instagram, wherever you get your social media information, and you can jump on with us. And there's a little button somewhere where you can ask questions or make some comments. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to do it live, or you can tweet at us, as Guy says. Mississippi, by the way, it's where I was a couple of weeks. Maybe placed a few bets here or there. You can do that down in Mississippi. You know that, Guy Adami. You can eat well. You can listen to great music. You can play fantastic golf courses. And if you like slinging some dice, you can do that. Play some cards, pull the slot machine, or the sports book. That's all down in Mississippi. Visit Mississippi.org. That's where you go to plan your vacation. All right, stock markets. I'm going to drill you guys down with some questions because there are things that Ned needs to know.
Show me the money!
Yeah, I got a segment, baby. Got a segment. I have a segment, so buckle up. You better go ahead and put your seatbelt on there, Danny Moses. I want to know, first of all, expectations from the Fed meeting this week. Yep, there you go. Yep. Expectations from the Fed meeting this week, and then how we play it if they do what we think they're going to do, or if they come back with something different.
Well, Danny buckled his seatbelt, so I think that tells you everything you need to know, Ned. So fasten up. As we've been sitting here, by the way, I've been looking down at my Apple device, my handheld device, and I see that the market, Dow has just rallied roughly 200 points. I'm not quite sure on what. I will find out. But I think, how do you play it? Well, I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that when they announce tomorrow, the Fed will raise 50 basis points. I think the market acknowledges that and is sort of accepting of that. And I think maybe we're seeing a bit of a relief rally ahead of it. I'll say this, and I think Danny agrees with me. We're just at the start of something that is a major sea change in terms of our Federal Reserve and how they view monetary policy. So the market's relief rally right now. I'm not sure how long it's going to last, Danny.
Yeah, I would say you're right. It's hard to get more hawkish than things are right now. That's not to say they can't raise rates farther than we think. But when you think about the statement the Fed will come out with tomorrow, it's just common sense. I can't imagine they say anything that's more hawkish than what we're seeing. And the problem is we're seeing basically a slowdown on economic numbers and continue to increase on inflation. Now, people will think that the inflation will lag that and will end up coming down a little bit, because if you get demand destruction, people just buying less things, prices of things come down. So you are seeing those things. So I think the thought would be that the Fed can't be more hawkish in their statement than the market's anticipating. That's probably why you're setting up for a little bit of a relief rally. That being said, they'll go 50 basis points. They'll indicate they'll probably go another 50 basis point in June. I will say the biggest wild card is this quantitative tightening. Mm-hmm. People are expecting that maybe they'll start it in in a month or so. If they don't, they push it out and they say something to the effect of, hey, I'm talking about the $9 trillion balance sheet here. Hey, we're going to evaluate it over the summer and come back in the fall. That would be dovish. That would be an excuse for the market to rally for sure, just on the margin. But that being said, I fade any rally. Again, you can buy certain stocks I think that are quality. And I will say this before I jump ahead to Bitcoin versus gold, and forget Bitcoin, I'll just call it gold. If the Fed is dovish at all, or the interpretation at all, you will see gold go rally back to $2,000 in a straight line, in my opinion. So you want to have really,
if they're dovish at all.
If they're dovish at all, if you want to have a jazzed up S&P call, I think it's gold. I'd love to get guys' thoughts on that, but I'm seeing that because the only thing that makes the market rally here is something to the effect of the Fed being interpreted as dovish. If that's the case, people will then extrapolate that, oh, I knew it. It's the old Fed. They'll just go back to QE and do all that shit, which they won't do. But that's why I love gold here. It sold off. Carter was on with Dan yesterday on one of your guys' shows, Market Call, which was great. It held the line. I love it here. Guy, what do you thoughts on gold?
Gold's up today. I agree. I think there's a scenario where gold rallies regardless. But to your point, if this Fed, for whatever reason, is more dovish, they can only be more dovish at this point, I guess. I think that will be bullish for gold. I'll say this. Richard Fisher, one of the old Fed governors, was on CNBC earlier today. And I'm paraphrasing, but it's important. He said this is a Federal Reserve that's really not focused on the stock market. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but the point being, I think they're they're not concerned that the market will sell off on things that they need to do because they realize they're so far behind the curve in terms of where they are in terms of interest rates and how far inflation's got out of their grasp. So when the Fed governors and ex-Fed officials tell you that the market's really not in their purview, listen to what they're saying. So the fact that the market's rallying right now is really nice and interesting. But again, there's tremendous headwinds out there, in my opinion, Ned.
The two gold plays, I bought some this morning, AMRK, Porter Collins and your crew, Danny. That was one of the positions that they recommended. And then PHYS.
Yeah. So Coach would love this AMRK because that is the 3 a.m. buy gold now, 1-800 buy gold. That's what that thing is. Okay. So they actually own all those companies. They're like a dealer and all that stuff. Good chart there. I bought it kind of like high 60s, low 70s. Watch it run towards 90. I'm still there, adding a little bit. So that's when people run into physical gold. That stock will explode. And that PHYS is a physical gold trust, effectively. So GLD is, you don't own the physical. PHYS, Sprott, they go out and actually buy the physical, which I know Guy likes as well, because if you want to own the physical. So
I do. And real quick, Danny, Mitch is asking on Twitter. He mentioned that you said you sort of liked Charge It for your Kentucky Derby. Do you like it, or was just a slip of the tongue, as they say?
Listen, I love Pletcher at 20-1. It's probably a good value. It would runner up in the Florida Derby and had a horrible ride. So it definitely has the ability, I think, to go the distance. And again, 20 horses in the Derby, throw something on that thing. I mean, even to show that horse will probably pay 5-1, right, in a Derby. So throw something on Charge It. I threw him into my last two picks, as you can see when I mentioned 3, 6, 10, 12, 1. That's the 8-horse Charge It. So if I did a superfecta, I included in there. So yeah, I like it.
Coach, you're a superfecta, just all by yourself. It's like a supernova. You take all, superfecta. Hey, gold versus Bitcoin. I know you love Bitcoin, Danny. I know you love it. What are the expectations really for Bitcoin?
Let me tell you something.
If we do have this pullback.
It's really proved to be a store value, not. It's really proved to be a great inflation hedge, not. Listen, Ethereum, I'm not your crypto guy, but Ethereum I would always own over Bitcoin. I think there's applications for Ethereum that are being proven out, and it's becoming self-fulfilling. Bitcoin, to me, because of the stable coins that are attached to it and things, I'm just not a believer in it. Again, I'm not short it. I don't want to be that guy. Don't at me. Oh, he never liked it in the first place. You're right. I hated it at 1,000. Hated it at 10,000. I really hated it at 60,000. But I just wouldn't mess around. I just wouldn't mess around in it. It's trading with the market. It's like the cues on crack. So I just don't like it here. Guy, did I say anything you disagree with there?
No, not at all. I've tried to wrap my head around crypto for a while now. I've read books, and I'm not going to lie. I really don't. I mean, I understand it to a certain level, but I don't fully embrace it like some of these people do. And, I'm not saying it's a greater fool's theory thing, but I'm just not well equipped to really speak intelligently about it. What I'll tell you, though, and I'll say this before we get to the next segment, I don't think it's coincidental that Bitcoin topped out around November, December, the same time this Federal Reserve went from extraordinarily accommodative to extraordinarily not accommodative and hawkish. And I think the role in crypto and the reason why crypto was created, again, my opinion, is for this concern about fiat currencies and central banks going wild. But if central banks trying to be somewhat, I guess, prudent, or they're going to try to be, they're going to go back on the right side of the equation, I think that could be potentially the reason why crypto is sold off the way it has.
I just sold all my Ethereum yesterday over Bitcoin, kept my Bitcoin, coach. So I'm always excited to hear Danny say, I'd keep Ethereum over Bitcoin.
You chose Poison.
Yep. I had some SPY puts, by the way. I bought at 0.9, sold them at 175. And then when guys saying the market's up 200 points, I look, they're like at 3 now. You're right, but wrong all at the same time.
Right.
Okay. If we have a recession, there was something interesting in one of the market calls or on the tapes that you all did. And I think it was Porter Collins said, hey, remember, if we go into a recession, everything goes down. If we go into a bear market, everything goes down. I don't know if we have that chart or not, but it shows basically things that you feel good about right now, the defensive, energy, gold, etc. In a bear market, here we go. These things, none of them fare well. So if we are indeed going into or are in a bear market, into a recession here, what do we do?
Well, it's interesting. I'm going to let Danny talk about that real quick. What I will tell you is, I do think for many stocks, not only dozens, but literally hundreds of stocks have crashed since last summer. And by the way, that's a word I'm choosing to use. And when I say crash, down anywhere from 40 to 80%, and you say, no, it can't be. Well, it can be. And if you just look closely at a name like Facebook, for example, I mean, there are a litany of names that have been more than cut in half, and these are not small stocks, number one. So what do? Well, I think obviously most people are going to be long equities at a certain point, but you have to find levels and you have to have a list out there where if Disney were to get to 105, I am buying Disney. If Apple were to get to 138, I'm buying Apple. If Amazon were to get to 2,100, I'm buying Amazon, that type of thing. Because when they get there without your plan, it's going to look terrifying. When you have a plan in place, it makes it a lot easier to do, Ned.
I like that.
Yeah.
Those are numbers. I'm writing all of them down right now. Danny, you've got
there's certain
45 seconds.
There's certain things that can cause a recession. I mean, so every cycle is different. I will say that you want to own utilities, which are on that side. You want to own things that are defensive, things that people have to pay. You got to keep your lights on, your power on. So those are defensive in nature. Consumer discretionary, crushed. Home builders, we're already seeing home builder stocks are in a recession. We've already seen that. Mortgage rates have ballooned out where we haven't seen in a decade where they are right now. You are seeing little pockets of what a recession might look like. And the last thing is the reason the banks are underperforming is there's people who believe there's credit reserves coming. The consumer credit is turning as a result of higher rates, higher oil. And that's true. Consumer couldn't have gotten any better than it is. So again, if I could put 2 seatbelts onto this thing, I would. But listen, there's always buys in the market. Okay. There's always things. So money's got to go somewhere. So I'll come back to you when that happens.
10 seconds each. Are we in a housing bubble?
We are in certain pockets of a housing bubble. There are secular aspects to it where people are moving permanently, where it makes it secular. But the answer is on the margin, yes, but it won't affect the banks like it did in 2008.
Affordability is like ridiculous. I mean, the houses are the most expensive they've been, I think, in the last 30 years. So I would say almost by definition, the answer is an emphatic yes, Ned.
Emphatic. We always close the show in emphatic nature because, Guy, it's your time to shine.
Goonies. That was beautiful.
So troubling. I
That
mean,
was amazing.
Every time I see that, I
You've never looked better.
God.
Well, today is Tuesday. It is May. And yesterday, you know what started? The NHL playoffs. Why do I mention that? Because there is no more beautiful game than the sport of hockey. More so during the playoffs where 16 teams, and by the way, I would submit, Coach, that 14 of these 16 teams have a legit shot to hoist Lord Stanley's Cup in June. So I can't even begin to tell you how jacked up I am. My New York Rangers back in the playoffs after a 5-year hiatus. I actually give them a fighter's chance, I believe currently at 16-1 to win the Cup. I am so geeked up. I'm actually grow one of those Jonathan Coachman beards for the playoffs.
By the way, on my little show, The Early Edge, we have the Rangers winning the series. We also have the Rangers winning tonight. We do. And winning tonight, minus 130 tonight, and they're for game number 1 for them. So we got your back.
If I were in close proximity, Coach, I would kiss you, but I'm not, and I'm sure that
only if you're wearing your crop top. Check out Jonathan Coachman. He's at the Sports Line. He's all over the place. And Guy Adami, Danny Moses, both on Twitter, on the tape, and market calls. I'm Ned Michaels. I think we're out of time. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next week. Breaking Even.